What's up? Um, this was a kind of a, I won't say a scary trade, but I kind of fucked up a little bit, but I'm still learning on the strategy. But I've been studying. I don't know. I've just been studying, and I'm listening to interviews. I'm watching DVDs. Then when I'm at work, I'm listening to when I get the chance, I listen to the study trade podcast, and uh Rolling Wolf was talking about, and I think this was season two, episode one and two. Um, it was the beginning episodes of season two, but I don't know if I heard this from another video too. I can't remember, but Rolling Wolf was talking about um, how to long, and he was saying when a stock has no overhead resistance, um, no overhead resistance, great catalyst or good catalyst, volume. Um, it was like five things: no overhead resistance, um, catalyst, volume, and two other things. I gotta go back and watch it. But these two other things, and I'll I will go back and I'll make another video explaining uh, this trade. But he said these five things, and when the stock has these five things, that's when you want to long. When the volume dries up, that's when manipulators um, are they stop manipulating the stock and is giving these guys, and Jackaroo said this, when the volume dries up, Rolling Wolf and Jackaroo excuse me, Rolling Wolf and Jackaroo said this, when the volume dries up, that's when the stock is going to start to rip or to go up. So um, the volume started to dry up here, so I kind of chased this bounce and I entered here, and it came down, and I was down a couple $100 on my, or not even a couple hundred, like I'll say about 120, 150 on my trade. My risk was $30, but really this time I didn't. Well, here, let me stop. Let me go back. I, I'm going ahead of myself. Um, so when the volume dries up, uh, that's when you're in preparation for it to do a rip. There's two spots from where we're at right now where it dried up. But let me go to the beginning, the very beginning of how I traded this stock. So of course, eh, um, on stockmarketwatch.com. Of course, I didn't go on this website because I have a scanner. But if you go, this stock was the biggest percent gainer. I was looking at all the biggest pre-market percent gainers for the day. I saw this one. Um, I looked at the yearly chart first. Saw there was no overhead resistance. It gapped up largely, no overhead resistance. Look at the 5-year chart. There's resistance right here, but it's past a year. It's past a year, um, and then it goes on to what, 2 years ago, um, or right here would be, 3 years ago. So when it goes past a year, I don't count it because I count it, but not really. It's like a 50-50. With that, I don't really count the resistance over a year ago because that's what I've been taught. And they say that people kind of forget what happened over a year ago and all that. And there's so much manipulation and splits and all that. that you don't really count it. I didn't look up if there was any splits, but when I looked on my scanner, it didn't say that there was any splits because my scanner tells me if there's a split. Um, but I'll look it up here. What is this stock? ACRS, ACRS stock splits zero. Zero. And I just typed this in anywhere and it tells me, and this information seems trustworthy for me. And not only that, my scanner on my broker didn't say that it had any stock split. So I didn't look up the stock split when I was about to trade it or watching it, but it's whatever. The float was 26.74. That's pretty for a stock that's like maybe 2 3 years ago. If it had 26 million float, I wouldn't be too sure if it would go up or not because um, you know these stocks wouldn't run up as much as they're doing now. Before, back in the days, they would, like when I first started learning, I would notice they would go up from $1 to $6 to $9, and that's it for the day. Now they're going to 15, 20 in one day. So it's like penny stocks are not even penny stocks no more because before you even can get into them, they 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 blow past $5. But of course, penny stocks are not just $5 stocks. Um, the outstanding, you got to know the outstanding because you got to know, okay, could this company dump their shares and how much do they have to dump? So there's 42 0.93 million outstanding. So if you subtract the difference, if you minus 42 and 26, you'll know how much this company or whoever and private investors have of shares to dump um, their shares onto the investors like us, day traders and back holders, whatever. So it wasn't that big of a difference. So I'm like, okay, if they do dump, it might not be that bad. Of course, the volume was pushing way higher. I didn't need to compare the volume to any other. The volume now, which is 37 million, I didn't need to compare it to any of these because it blew past all these previous resistance. So, or whatever you want to call this, the previous highs, because I didn't even compare because it blew past it. So and if you look here, you know, nothing compares to it. Maybe a couple million somewhere here, maybe here, but it was blue. It was way past it, and I didn't need to compare it. So pre-market, I'm watching it, and I started watching it right here. And sorry, that's the garbage man picking up the trash. Finally, the motherfuckers haven't came in 2 weeks, 3 weeks since New Year. I haven't seen motherfuckers come. But um, I'm a little, hyper and happy because I had a really good trade, but I need to calm myself down. So pre-market, I'm watching it here. I wanted to long it here, but I was afraid it was going to do like a dip and rip, and I'm like, I don't want to sit through the rip, so I'm going to wait till market open and see what it does. So then it just started doing this shit right here. It just started running up, and I'm like, what the fuck? From like 1150 to 13 then 14. Then it hit 1550, and I was just like, what the hell? And I was just like, all right, whatever, fuck, I missed it. So I'm watching it, keeping my eyes on it, keeping a close eye on it. and I entered right. I entered somewhere right here for 200 shares at 1433. I entered for 1433. Um, uh, somewhere around here with 200 shares. Now with 200 shares, I was comfortable with. I was really thinking like 4 to 600, but I'm like, you see, when you do 4 to 600, you do too many shares, more shares than you're supposed to. You end up making major mistakes. So I did 200 shares. I'm like, okay, if it breaks the low, I'm gonna be down a couple, $150, which ain't bad. And then I have more money to add shares to get a better average. And then I wait for a rip. But I'm like, okay, I'm asking myself, I'm like, all right, I'm already in. If it pulls back, I enter, and I have a better average, and it still goes down, then I'm gonna be fucked, and I ain't like that. So I added to another 200 shares. I was at 13. I went from 1433 average to a 1393 or 96 average, and right here I was down about 250. And I'm like, I really don't like this. I really don't. I'm not comfortable with this. Yes, I got in too high, but how do I improve on this the next time? I'm still in the trade, and I'm just waiting. I'm like, okay, if it hits the lowest point, which is 1329, I had set it at 1330, and I was like, okay, if it hits 1330, I have to get out, bro. I have to. I have no choice. And I'm like, man, I don't want to take this loss. This loss is gonna hurt me, but I'm like, I have to take it because I'm trying a new strategy out. I don't long at all, and I'm not comfortable. So I got the shares. I was thinking about, okay, let me add another 200 just in case it rips. But I'm like, nah, because you're just now at this point you'll just be adding to a loser. Before when you bought here for your first 200, it was a starter position. Then now right here or somewhere right here when I added shares, I think it was right here when I added shares. That was like my set. I'm at my maximum amount of shares. Now adding another 200 onto a loser would mean just me just you know trying to make something that's terrible into better. And I don't want to go. I don't want to take a $200 loss, and I don't want to take more than a $200 loss. So I'm not adding shares. So I didn't. And then it started riding up a little bit. It pulled up. It got to here. I was up like $300, and I was like, from what um, uh, Wolf and Jack Kellogg said in their videos, they said if it has no overhead resistance, as it does not have here, there's volume, there's a catalyst. The volume is drying up. If you see here, as I zoom in right here, it's drying up compared to this and these. It's drying up. So if it's drying up, they're not manipulating it. If they are manipulating, they're not. And I know they're manipulating it because they release news pre-market to push the stock up, but which is a great strategy. I'm not knocking them off for that, but um, I know they have to be manipulating it because no stock goes up over 200% in one day. It's manipulation. So, and I know whatever news they had, I knew they had it since like last week. They just decided to release it on the first trading day of the week after a holiday, and everybody took a break, and everybody's feeling happy and more energetic. But it pushed up here. I was up like 350 maybe, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna be patient with this trade. I'm not. I'm gonna let my winner run. But I remember what Wolf said. You can't really let your winners run because you don't know where it's gonna go. But I'm like, okay, I'm gonna wait for it to hit a higher high and cover or sell because um, that'll be the better option. It doesn't have overhead resistance, so it shouldn't have a hard time getting past high day. And if it does, I mean, my average is like right here at 1393 or 96. So so you know, it's up. It might go up some more. I don't know. So I'm like, I'm willing to take the risk. If it hits 14, if it goes back to my average, I might just cut or I might cut under, depending on how I feel um, or what I see. And then it did this number right here where it pushed up and it hit a high day. And then my order's already set. I'm about to enter it, and it's pushing, 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 and I just hit my order. It didn't get executed right away because it was a bit above um, the it hit like 16 or something, and then when I clicked the button, I hit it at 1577 or something like that, and my order got executed at some price, and I was out for $744. That's how much I made for the day with this trade. And then it continued to push up almost $1 past my exit, which is good. So I'm happy that I made $744 for the day. It took me about I'm sorry, it took me about we'll say from starting from here with 935 to we'll call it 30 minutes. We'll call it 25 minutes. It took me about 25 minutes to make $744. Um, my job called me in for work. I'm glad they did because I had a better mindset when it came to trading this. I knew I couldn't have any big fuck ups or hold for too long because I had to go to work right after this. So, so I'm just like, okay, no fuck ups, no trying to hold forever, or if I make a mistake, try to fix it and hold throughout the entire day. I don't have the whole day to trade this, so there will be none of that. Um, so it kind of like threw my back against the wall and made me trade better and really follow my rules better. Um, I'm glad that I have this much of a gain because I've been taking a lot of L's lately, and a big gain like this makes me feel good. Um, this year alone I already had a $327 loss was my biggest loss for the year so far. No, my biggest loss was 679 and then a 326. So I'm glad that I made that back. Um, and then on Friday I had a $230 gain. So um, I'm glad that I was able to do that. It looks like it's going to fade here and then start consolidating and then rip up again, like you see in pre-market where it fades, rips up, fades or consolidates, then rips up. So at some point this has to just stop. It might be today, it might be tomorrow, but honestly, I felt like I gave myself, a good 3 to 4 star trade on this because um, although I was down quite a bit in the beginning, I purposely entered with a small amount of shares right here because I knew that it might not continue to go up. So I can add again later when it comes down some more, and that's what I did. Um, the only problem was that beyond my uh I was beyond my risk. Maybe I should have done 100 shares, then another 100 shares right here, and then when I started to see it rip or go up, I could have added more shares to ride it. That would have been a better option. 100 here, 100 there, 100 here, 100 here, and then as it starts to go up, do 200, 300, and then ride it, and then be quick to cut my losses if it just falls under. But I'm glad that I was able to trade this well. Um, um, I was watching Steady Trade podcast. I was kind of like not trying to hear it because I just wasn't feeling it today. Um, Maybe because I was hungry and overwhelmed because I had so much shit going on. One thing about trading, one thing I'm going through too is I have so much fucking distractions. And in Steady Trade podcast and in Jackaroos uh uh Steady Trade podcast with Roland Wolf and then maybe a couple of other ones that I listen to. And then in Jackaroos video I'm about to show you here, they talk about they talk about how you're gonna have so much distraction, and that's what I'm going through right now. It's like I'm going through a lot of distraction right now with this video right here. I'm going through a lot of distraction right now because it's just fucking ridiculous. Like everything that I'm doing right now. Jackaroo talk about this. There's so much distraction. I literally woke up to crazy phone calls and text messages. Like I'm a robot. I don't go to sleep. And then when I woke up, people started calling me, my job calling me, my friends calling me. There's nothing but phone calls, and it's just like, bro, leave me alone so I can focus on trading. And then, I'm like, you know what? I got 4 or 5 things I need to do. Fuck them all. Fuck them all. I'm gonna watch this stock. I'm gonna see what it does. I'm gonna trade it the way I can if it gives me the opportunity. And then when I'm done, that's when I'll do everything else, and that's what I did. And I believe this is gonna continue to repeat what it did here, but I don't know how for how long. I'll say this might, if it does start to push up, this might be the last push up. 11 o'clock is coming. 11:30, 10:30 here. Um, this was the biggest or best opportunity. I wouldn't really long right here, especially with me with the gains. Um, I wouldn't long right here. Uh, it could just, you know, fade or it can bounce up, don't get to the high day and come down. Um, I if it does push up, past it, I will let it do its thing, pull back, consolidate, and then around 12 to 2 or maybe even 3, I will watch it to see what it's gonna do and see where I can start entering. But this was a really good stock. I'm glad that I got $744 in gains. With all the distractions that was going on with me today, um, I was able to come out on top. Lesson in this trade: um, fucking, you don't really learn too much from your wins. You learn more from your losses than your wins. But lesson in this trade was really the beginning part of this trade, which was, um, you know, sizing small here, sizing small, and then wait for a rip up. Uh, Someone, it was I think it was Wolf or Gratani or Huddy. A couple of the traders said this. The amount of shares that um you're thinking about doing, like let's say you're doing 400 and you sizing small and you'll do half of it. They say do even smaller than that. Like the amount of shares you think is a small amount, you need to be doing smaller than that. And I'm starting to see that because to be honest, 200 is a small amount of shares for me. 400 is a small amount of shares, but 200 is smaller. And if they say, okay, the amount that I'm thinking that is small, put in get in smaller, that would be 100 shares or 50 shares. Of course, I'm not going to do 50 shares, but 100 shares. So I should have done 100. But that's the main lesson in this trade is just this part right here. Smaller, getting smaller, and then fucking play it. But yeah, man, I think I did well.